This is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
Here we go. It is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. Man, crazy. This is supposed to be the slow time of the year where you don't have a lot to talk about, and man, is there a lot to talk about. Let's start off with the NBA before we get into the big stuff that I really want to get into. Let's start off with the power rankings. So I told you, well, I've been trying to tell you actually since Monday, new power rankings were out. I wanted to go over them really quickly and talk about those. Let's start with, and I'm just going to go down from number one to the bottom. There's no real drama. We all know who's number one right now. Phoenix Suns, the number one ranked team in the NBA power rankings. Friday, they had a big victory over the New York Knicks. As you know, 115-114. It has been one heck of an NBA season. I have said this once. I've said it twice. I'll say it a million times. It's been a lot of fun watching the NBA this season because this is going to be the first season in about 3 seasons where we're actually going to get a true NBA championship. Like I said, the Lakers, the fact that they won their title in the bubble, there's an asterisk next to it. The Lakers, like they are now, would have been injured, but you had 4 months off. You had no injuries. Everybody's coming back. You're running into a bubble. It's immediately into the playoffs. The Lakers were the best team. But again, they didn't have to go through the rigmarole of a regular full season. Had they went through a full season, I don't think the Lakers would have been the title that year. Last year, again, the Bucks, Suns, 2 teams that got to walk into the NBA Finals. Neither one of them deserved to be there. But the basketball gods knocked out all the stars on all the competing teams and made it to where all the Bucks and the Suns had to do was stay healthy, and they were going to be able to walk their way into the NBA Finals. They did. The better of the 2 teams won, which was the Milwaukee Bucks, but there is still an asterisk next to that NBA title as well. So just making sure that I'm clear on why I'm excited about this NBA season. But again, number one ranked team, Phoenix Suns, big victory Friday night over the Knicks. But, of course, they have since then suffered another loss. Good news for the Suns today, however, Devin Booker is going to be off the health and safety protocol list. Devin Booker now coming back to the Phoenix Suns lineup. I believe his game tonight is going to be his first game back. So tonight, I believe they battle the number 2 team in the NBA power rankings, which is the Miami Heat. Devin Booker will be back for tonight's game. And again, the number 2 team in the power rankings is the Miami Heat. Number 3, you're looking at the man that everybody says should be able to lead this particular team to the NBA Finals. I disagree. I've never seen a point guard do it. Of course, we're talking about Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies, ranked number 3 in the NBA power rankings, and I don't think we're ever going to see a point guard lead a team to the NBA Finals. As good as he is, he's fun to watch. He's hyper dynamic. He's exciting. He's definitely a fresh breath of air, but he is definitely not going to be a guy who's going to be able to lead a team to the NBA Finals. Milwaukee Bucks, number 4 in the power rankings, and I will give you what my power 4 is at the end of the rankings, by the way, but we're talking about the 4-letter network right now. Milwaukee Bucks coming in at number 4 in the power rankings. Number 5, the Philadelphia 76ers are at number 5. Of course, vastly improved with James Harden. And by the way, the Milwaukee Bucks, their success is coming off the health of their team. And the fact that, they are a year longer together and looking like they know each other better than ever before. So you're looking at health and you're looking at familiarity for the Milwaukee Bucks. For the Philadelphia 76ers, who are coming in at number 5, the addition of James Harden is a big plus. But I noticed they're already doing load management with James Harden, which again, is the thing that you got to suffer through when you have James Harden playing for your team. I'm not big on load management, by the way, but that's just me. Number 6, Golden State Warriors dropping from number 3 to number 6. Look, Golden State, I don't have faith in them anymore. I just don't. They're not the team that I thought they were. I don't think they're ever going to be the team that I thought they were. I think Golden State is a fall by the wayside team. They're not really going to make any noise during this offseason. I just don't see it. Utah Jazz, number 7. Here's a team that's always banged up, always missing a star or two. If they could ever get healthy, I would love to see just how good the Utah Jazz could actually be. But the problem with them is they just cannot seem to stay healthy. Boston Celtics, number 8. Jason Tatum coming into his own. The team's getting healthy. It's taken them a lot longer to develop as a team than I thought it would, but it looks like it's finally starting to happen now, and it's a great time in the season for this to happen. Boston Celtics taking a leap from number 10 to number 8. Chicago Bulls dropping from 6 to 9. They have now lost 5 games in a row, I believe it is. They're struggling. And I think the biggest thing for the Chicago Bulls is while they are good and very good, they're not great, and they don't have a roster that's great, and they depend too much on just one guy to get it done for them, and I think that's what their Achilles heel is. Same thing with the Dallas Mavericks. They were at number 9. Now they're at number 10. Again, they're not really deep, so I don't know how much you can expect out of Dallas because they're just not that deep roster-wise. Denver Nuggets, another team that just cannot seem to stay healthy. Health has been an issue for them. If they were able to ever get it together and stay healthy, I wonder also how good the Denver Nuggets should be. I just said the same thing about the Utah Jazz, and I have to, again, reiterate it for the Denver Nuggets because I feel the same way about them. If they could just all be healthy at once, I just wonder how good they could actually be. Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that all year long I have been saying has impressed me, and they're better than I think they're supposed to be. They're good, getting better. How good can they be? I don't know, but there are certain teams, though, I will say this. There are certain teams that do well during the regular season, and they seem to really blossom either immediately before the season ends or they really blossom once they get to the NBA playoffs. Some teams actually, to me, seem like they just flip a switch when they get to the playoffs and all of a sudden they turn it on, and then you see who they are and what they're really about. I am hoping that's what we're going to get out of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 13, Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 14, the LA Clippers, a team that to me is whatever. I kind of think the same thing about Minnesota. They're kind of, they got a year or two to go, and they need to make some key acquisitions. Toronto Raptors, a kind of a up and down team, in my opinion. They're consistently inconsistent. Brooklyn Nets, they got a lot of problems they need to figure out, and the number one thing is, are they ever going to get the new star that they just acquired, Ben Simmons, to actually be on the floor? That is ultimately the biggest question. If they don't, they're in a lot of trouble because, again, I don't know, because Kevin Durant also was out injured, how long it's going to take him to gel with all his new teammates. Then you add in Kyrie Irving, who is playing with the new teammates less than Kevin Durant is. I would have hoped that they would have made this move earlier in the season and they would have more time to gel together because, again, sometimes it takes a little longer than others. With James Harden, it was just one guy entering and taking over where another guy was never there. With Brooklyn, you're replacing a lot of pieces, a lot of parts, and you're kind of starting from scratch. They're good players. They're great players, and they can be a great team. But I don't know if they've got enough time to gel and put it together. The Atlanta Hawks coming in at number 17. Again, consistently inconsistent. I'm not happy about what I've seen from Atlanta. They definitely are not anywhere near what I had expectation-wise for them. But again, maybe they'll do what they did last year, just flip a switch, all of a sudden, turn it on. But I don't know. Can you do that 2 years in a row? That's a lot to ask. LA Lakers, a team that needs LeBron James, and they can only go as far as LeBron James can take them. And I don't care if he was 25 years old. With this roster, it wouldn't be very far. They're too old, and Russell Westbrook is what Russell Westbrook is. Again, there is a way to potentially use Russell Westbrook. How good can he acclimate himself to that role? That's the question. Coming off the bench, running the offense while LeBron James is on the sidelines. Can he do it? Can he be effective at it? And can he be consistently effective? That's a question. Questions that I can't answer. Only Father Time will. Number 19, Charlotte Hornets, moving down from 18 to 19, so holding steady. But again, we're at the part where we are looking at teams that are consistently inconsistent or they're just bad, like the New Orleans Pelicans, who, by the way, have improved over the second half of the season. Got to give credit where credit's due. The New Orleans Pelicans have improved over the second half of the season without a doubt. Washington Wizards, I haven't been impressed with them all year long. They're at number 21. Portland Trailblazers, we all know they've fallen apart, made some trades, got rid of some people. They pretty much have given up on this season, and they're coming in number 22. 23, the New York Knicks. Here's a team that just finds new ways to lose games. Sometimes they look like the team you thought they would be, and then they just show you they're not who we thought. Number 24, San Antonio Spurs. They fell from 23 to 24. They looked for a quick minute like they were going to bounce back and make it somewhat exciting, but then they went back to playing what we have seen recently as San Antonio basketball. Sacramento Kings, well, Sacramento is who Sacramento is, coming in at number 25. The Indiana Pacers, they are at number 26. They've been consistently bad all year long, as have the Sacramento Kings. The Oklahoma City Thunder, another, consistently bad team, ranking at number 27, previously ranked at number 27. And then you have the Detroit Pistons, who were, and for the most season have been, the worst team in the NBA, coming in at number 28. But now we find the Orlando Magic, now at 29. And you have the Houston Rockets, now at number 30. So the Rockets and the Orlando Magic have flipped. And those are the power rankings for the NBA. Now, I said I would give you my power four. I look at basketball, the NBA, a lot like I do look at college football. There's kind of an elite four. And then you have those teams that are in that middle group that are trying to get into the elite four. And then you have that bottom segment of teams, which, are pretty much looking forward to next year, giving up on this year, trying to figure out draft picks, free agency in the offseason, possibly potentially some coaching changes or whatever the case may be. I look at the NBA a lot like I do college football. So if we're talking about my power rankings, and again, I definitely had it wrong last year. Phoenix Suns are still my number one. I'm going to leave them at number one. I'm going to disagree. I don't think Miami's number two. I don't think Memphis is number three. I would put the Philadelphia 76ers at number two. So Phoenix Suns number one, Philadelphia 76ers number two, Milwaukee Bucks for me would be number three. And then really for number four, there really is no clear-cut four at this time, really. It's only the Elite Three instead of the Elite Four. I think everybody else falls either in that middle category or in that looking forward to next season category. So Suns number one, Philadelphia 76ers number two, Milwaukee Bucks number three. I'm throwing Golden State out because I don't believe in them any longer. I think they're just done. They're over. I think it's over for the Golden State Warriors. I don't think they have anything else to offer. I honestly think it is done, finished, over for the Golden State Warriors. So I am giving you a power three, which again is Phoenix Suns number one, Philadelphia 76ers number two, Milwaukee Bucks number three. If you absolutely forced me to give you a number four, and I wouldn't do it with a big smile on my face, meaning that I would do it, but half-heartedly, not really saying that they are elite, but they probably maybe are the number four team right now currently in the NBA, I would say it would have to be the Boston Celtics. But again, it's tough because there's a lot of teams you could say are number four, in my opinion. But I would personally, at this point in time, at this very moment, give it to the Boston Celtics. San Antonio Spurs. Let's talk about them really briefly, staying with the NBA really quickly. So Popovich ties Nelson for the NBA career wins record. Greg Popovich tied Don Nelson's NBA record with his 1,335th career victory as a coach in the San Antonio Spurs 117-110 win over the LA Lakers on Monday night. So big congratulations to Popovich. I'm still not a big believer or a fan of Popovich. I think his time has come and gone, and he should have been let go a long time ago. But big accolades to him because it is a big benchmark that he did reach. Now, flipping back to the NFL really quickly, Tennessee Titans, they signed Harold Landry to a 5-year, $87.5 million contract. So let's talk about that really briefly. The Tennessee Titans managed to get a long-term deal done with Harold Landry announcing on Tuesday night that they've agreed to terms on a multi-year contract with the outside linebacker. The team didn't reveal financial terms, but a source told Adam Schefter that it's a 5-year, $87.5 million contract that includes $0.5 million guaranteed. So Tennessee Titans signed Harold Landry to a 5-year, $87.5 million contract. I don't know how big of a deal that's going to be. Again, there's a lot to talk about when you're talking about the state of the NFL, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. Carolina Panthers, speaking of moves and things that are happening and things that are, being made to happen now that you have Aaron Rodgers, who officially announced that he is going to stay with Green Bay for a year, $200 million deal, $50 million a year, most of it guaranteed. We'll get into that a little bit. There's not that much to say on it, but there are a couple of things really briefly to tap into in regards to the Aaron Rodgers situation. But because of those moves, now everybody, it looks like, is going to start making some moves. Carolina Panthers are now listening to trade offers on running back Christian McCaffrey. So multiple teams have called, by the way, in regards to Christian McCaffrey. And even though the Panthers aren't looking to unload McCaffrey, so they say, multiple league sources said that they would consider a deal if offered a first-round pick and another player without a big salary cap number. McCaffrey, who's 25, has 4 years remaining on his contract, which was extended last offseason, making him the highest-paid running back in the NFL with an average salary of $16 million. He has a 2022 salary cap number of $14,309,500 that jumps to $17.7 million the next 2 seasons. So we'll see what happens. The Panthers currently have $26,529,771 in cap space, according to league data. So again, if they can get a move made and it won't make them take a big cap hit, they are entertaining on Christian McCaffrey. Kind of surprised to hear that, to be honest. I thought they'd be looking to make a move in regards to the quarterback room, but we'll get into that a little bit. So I want to talk about this really quickly. Calvin Ridley. So we all know the suspension took place, and I have poll questions in regards to Calvin Ridley on my Twitter page at Yay or Nay Podcast. The address to the Twitter page, by the way, again, at Yay or Nay Podcast is the address to the podcast Twitter page. I have a bunch of Yay or Nay questions up there for you now. Go answer them. Tomorrow I should have the results from some of those questions that I have out there. There will also be some new questions up on the Twitter page today at the conclusion of this podcast. So make sure you go check out, again, the Twitter page at Yay or Nay Podcast. But Calvin Ridley suspension. I have a question in regards to, is it fair or is it not fair? And what is the suspension actually about? Because I heard somebody say something yesterday that was really interesting. And basically their take was, and I was thinking the same thing, but I'll be honest, I didn't say it this way. So I was kind of impressed by this individual who made this statement. But the bottom line was, what is the suspension about and how fair is it? And here's what I mean when I ask that question. So Calvin Ridley, I get it. It is something that is plastered everywhere, locker rooms and everywhere and anywhere that has to do with the football team, pamphlets and information and so on and so forth, that you don't gamble. It's part of the agreement the NFLPA has with the NFL, that there would be no gambling. And the NFL used to look at gambling as a taboo, as something that, wasn't welcome. They didn't like it. They didn't appreciate it. And then all of a sudden, they found out they could make money lining themselves up with it. So they get aligned with gambling organizations and they allow gambling. And now they're making money. And with more states still to go as far as allowing gambling to be legal, there is a lot more money yet to be made. And we all know about Pete Rose and what happened to him for gambling on his baseball games and what happened with his career and all that stuff, right? So we all know that it's always been a rule that's always been in existence. So I will throw that out there. But when you look at Calvin Ridley and when you look at the fact that he's been suspended, you have to ask, is it fair or not? That's question number one. The fact that he was suspended for the entire 2022 season, is that fair? That's question number one. Question number two for me is, why was he suspended? Was he suspended because this is a code of conduct? Or was he suspended, not to mention for a full year, because this could hurt the agreement that the NFL has with the gambling community and organizations? Because a lot of things that were said yesterday were very interesting to me. And one was when they said that they were basically going to suspend him for the entire 2022 season, were they suspending him and claiming that it was for the integrity of the game? Or were they claiming that it's because of the integrity of gambling? Now, one could argue that common sense tells you the statement that was made by the NFL was they were trying to basically continue to ensure the integrity of the game. There are others who will make the argument, however, that what they really mean without saying it is that they're trying to ensure the integrity of gambling, meaning NFL players shouldn't be gambling on games when it is obvious they have inside information that nobody else has. Therefore, that would, number one, damage the integrity of gambling, if you're being honest with yourself. And number two, could potentially damage the integrity of games if, for instance, you went up to another player and says, hey, I know that, they've got this line on you today. And if you get, one interception instead of two interceptions, I could win by taking the under. That's what their argument is. Maybe that's not the best example in the world, but it's a good example. Or another example would be a quarterback. Instead of throwing for 300 yards, he throws for 250 because the bet that's being laid is on the under. And the bet that Vegas is asking is, will they get over 300? So he stays under 300. And he might average 330, 340 on the regular, but because of the gambling aspect of it and players gambling, you might get a quarterback who underperforms on purpose, so the bet is won. Now you would be basically endangering the integrity of not only gambling, but the game itself, because it will affect how players play. So why you don't allow gambling is understood, but is it really about the integrity of the game? Because it sounds like it could also be about the integrity of gambling. That's a point that a lot of people were making yesterday, and I have to admit, it does sound interesting. At first I thought it sounded a little bit like a conspiracy theory, but then after I started to listen to it and think about it and really think about it, I started to wonder if there isn't any validity to it, meaning the NFL's making an example out of Calvin Ridley and they're suspending him for the entire 2022 season to make a point, because if you don't do anything to affect their bottom line, you're okay. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a minute. But if you do something that could potentially damage the bottom line, which in this case would be ruin the relationship that the NFL has with the gambling community, Vegas, and all the apps and all that stuff, because you have players that are now betting on games, then they are going to give you the worst penalty available. In this case, a 1-year suspension. Now, in the NFL's defense, I will say that it is well documented that everybody knows that if you were caught gambling, you could potentially get suspended for a full season and potentially banned for life from the NFL. That is common knowledge to all the players. Same thing with Major League Baseball, same thing with basketball, by the way. But right now, we're specifically talking about Calvin Ridley and the NFL. So it is noted that that is a possibility in regards to what the repercussions could be if you get caught gambling. But you have to ask yourself, because it gets a little deeper. And I'm taking my time, if you notice, getting there, because I want to make sure that there's clarity in regards to what I'm discussing. Calvin Ridley gets suspended for an entire year, right? But is it really about football and not gambling? Because now, let's talk about other players and other things. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson, for instance. You have NFL guys still talking about Deshaun Watson as a potential quarterback for all these teams this upcoming season, just like they did last season. And he has 22 potential counts of sexual assault against him. But you see, nobody has even officially suspended him yet. They haven't officially suspended him yet. Now, granted, the legal process still has to get played out, but nobody knows how long that's going to take. But yet they're still willing to talk about him being a potential quarterback this season, just like they were last season. And then you have other players, Richard Sherman, and the list goes on and on and on. Other players who've had DUIs, domestic violence, break-ins, all the things that the NFL is supposed to be against. All the things that the NFL supposedly is supposed to be in line with the police community and so on and so forth in regards to stopping these types of things from taking place. But when their players do it, they don't get suspended for a full year. They don't get big fines implemented against them. All they get is talked about in regards to how long it's going to take them to get back on the field, much like the conversation that continuously is being had about Deshaun Watson. Calvin Ridley for gambling. Nobody got injured. Nobody got hurt. He didn't assault anybody. He didn't accost anybody. He didn't murder anybody. He didn't get a ticket by the police for anything. But he got suspended for a full year. But what he did potentially could have hurt the NFL's bottom line. Deshaun Watson and other players, and I don't have enough time to name them all, Antonio Brown, domestic violence, violent threats via text messages, alleged rape. The list goes on and on and on. And what do we talk about? We talk about how long is it going to take them to get back on the field. We talk about we don't even know if they've been suspended. We talk about if they get found guilty, how long will they actually be suspended for? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 5 weeks? But we're never talking about a full season. Why? Well, rape allegations, DUIs, and stuff like that, they don't affect the NFL's bottom line. Calvin Ridley getting busted for gambling potentially could have some monetary ramifications. So he gets suspended for a full year. But these other guys, domestic violence, DUIs, hit and runs, whatever the case may be, breaking and entering, not affecting the NFL's bottom line. We're talking about weeks as far as how long their potential suspension could be. So you have to ask yourself, don't you find that a little interesting? Doesn't that sound a little interesting to you that we're only talking about weeks when a player gets busted for something that doesn't affect the NFL's bottom line and they're only going to get suspended again for weeks? Calvin Ridley gets busted for something that could potentially have financial repercussions, then they suspend him for a year. And the threat is for anybody else who gets caught in this kind of activity, they could get ousted from the NFL for life. Something to think about. Absolutely something to think about, without a doubt. There was a lot of conversation in regards to Russell Wilson, his move to the Denver Broncos. A lot of conversation about Aaron Rodgers, him staying with the Green Bay Packers. I will tell you this much, and I'm going to keep it as simple as I can because these are things that are never going to go away. These are conversations that are going to continue to be had. I'm going to continue to listen to everybody's thoughts and ideas, and you know, whether they think it's good, it's bad, and what they think is good and bad about it. Aaron Rodgers staying with Green Bay makes sense because, again, why? He's in arguably one of the worst divisions in football. He's got an easy 6 wins a year. Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit. 6 easy wins a year, much like Tom Brady. Isn't it amazing when we're talking about the best quarterbacks in football? They play in the worst divisions, and they've got guaranteed 6 victories. When Tom Brady was in the AFC East, he had Buffalo. They were horrible all those years. He had Miami. They were horrible all those years. It was an easy division. It was easy 6 victories. It was easy. They had no problem because the third team was the New York Jets. Easy 6 victories. Winning the division was never a problem. Aaron Rodgers, winning the division is never a problem. Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago. Easy 6 victories. Maybe you might lose one on accident. For most part, easy 6 victories. And you were at least guaranteed, just like Tom Brady was, to win the division going away each and every year. So why would he not stay? Russell Wilson, here's what's funny. Russell Wilson goes to become the quarterback of the Denver Broncos. And remember, the Denver Broncos is a team that for years, everybody keeps saying they've got a roster ready for the Super Bowl. They're just minus the quarterback. Get them the right quarterback. They're ready. They're good to go. They are a team built to go to the Super Bowl. They just can't get the quarterback right. Okay. So then it was Aaron Rodgers is going to go there. They hired a former coach for Aaron Rodgers to be the head coach for the Denver Broncos, and it was all done with the plan that Aaron Rodgers is going to arrive soon afterwards, and they are going to make a run at the Super Bowl because Denver is ready. They are primed. They got a roster. They've only been missing a quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers could be the quarterback. Okay. Now, I never believed it. I have, and I got it documented on all my podcasts. I have always said, I don't believe Denver's roster is as good as everybody says. I don't believe Denver's roster is as good as everybody thinks. And I don't think if you add the perfect quarterback, even if it was Aaron Rodgers to the Denver Broncos, that they would be a Super Bowl threat. Well documented on my behalf. So double check that all you want to. I have said that many a time. Now, all of a sudden, all these people that have been running around talking about how good the Denver Broncos would be, they're just minus a quarterback. Add the quarterback, and bam, they're ready to go. They're Super Bowl bound. They're Super Bowl ready. Now they're all walking it back. And now they're all trying to say, even if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, it wouldn't matter. Denver would not be the front runner to come out of the AFC and go to the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's what you're trying to feed me now. All right, but here's the thing. Because it's Russell Wilson, now they're even more so saying how Denver is not really Super Bowl ready. The roster is not quite that good. Nobody knows how good the running back room is. Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama didn't really perform up to standard, what they thought he was going to be last year. Folks, let me say this. This is what's hilarious to me. Okay, you want to walk back your comments about Denver national media? Fine, no problem. You can do that. There's no issue doing that in any way, shape, or form. I'm okay with that. My thing is this, though. So you want to walk back the fact that Denver is ready to go to the Super Bowl, and you also want to now attack Russell Wilson. There's what doesn't make sense, because a lot of people are saying, with Russell Wilson at the helm instead of Aaron Rodgers, now Denver is even less prepared and less ready to go to the Super Bowl than they would have been with Aaron Rodgers. I would make the argument that's not true. Folks, you got to look at the success. Aaron Rodgers is the greatest regular season quarterback probably of all time. Notice what I just said. Aaron Rodgers is the greatest regular season quarterback of all time. However, when it matters, when the chips are down and when it's time to buckle up and go, in the postseason, Aaron Rodgers is a loser. Aaron Rodgers underperforms. Aaron Rodgers is not an elite. And Aaron Rodgers is not, irregardless of what the national media wants you to believe, Aaron Rodgers is not one of the best quarterbacks of all time in the NFL. Now, he's one of the best regular season quarterbacks of all time, but he's not one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Regular season, yes, but regular season means nothing. Win your division, that's all you need to do. Come out of it as healthy as you can, be prepared and ready to go, flip a switch in the playoffs, make it happen. Aaron Rodgers has not been able to do that. He's done that one time in his career, one time and one time only, and I predict easily that one time is the only time Aaron Rodgers is ever going to have a Super Bowl victory. So now, fast forward to Russell Wilson, who is easily as comparable of a thrower, as comparable of a under-the-center reader of the defense as Aaron Rodgers, a better runner, more mobile, more dynamic, has a beautiful touch pass, almost as beautiful as Aaron Rodgers. But because of his athleticism and because of the fact that he's got a little more youth on his side than Aaron Rodgers does, and because Russell Wilson has more postseason success wins-wise than Aaron Rodgers does, I'd make the argument that Denver has a better opportunity to at least make the postseason with Russell Wilson instead of Aaron Rodgers. However, Mr. Keyshawn Johnson Mr. I know football, I play football. Nobody else knows football like me because I played football, and because I played football, I know everything there is to know about football, even though Keyshawn Johnson gets it wrong, I should say, wrong, not right, wrong, most of the time. And here is yet another example of Keyshawn Johnson once again getting it wrong big time. Because Russell Wilson is better for the Denver Broncos than Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers can stay with Green Bay all he wants to. All they're in is for 4 years of disappointment in Green Bay. They'll have the greatest regular season quarterback, big deal. Can't do anything in the postseason. And yet, Keyshawn Johnson says that Russell Wilson's not responsible for Seattle winning the Super Bowl. Really? I watched the same games you watched, and yes, while they did have a stout defense, man, that offense sure was good. Sure were a lot of long-distance passes being completed. He sure did get a lot of first downs with his legs, and he sure made a lot of things happen by stretching plays and giving his wide receivers time to break the routes and just go all out and outrun the defenders. And Russell was able to give him touch passes all day long. He was able to make a lot of stuff happen that a lot of other quarterbacks would not and could not do. So I don't know where Keyshawn Johnson gets the idea that Russell Wilson isn't good, but yet Keyshawn Johnson always talks about Dak Prescott and how great he is. No playoff victories, can't get a Super Bowl victory. His teams can only win against below 500 ball clubs, and they can't get to the Super Bowl because, again, they can't even get a simple playoff victory. But you're always Keyshawn Johnson bragging about how good Dak Prescott is, yet Russell Wilson outperforms Dak Prescott every year. So how can you possibly say that a guy who can only win against bad teams and can't win against good teams like Dak Prescott is anywhere near the caliber of a quarterback as Russell Wilson, and then try to say that Russell Wilson is not good enough to even get the Denver Broncos to the playoffs? So to show you how wrong Keyshawn Johnson is, and it's not hard to do because it's easy, and here's another chance and opportunity that I'm going to take to show you how wrong and how obviously blatantly wrong he is yet again. I will guarantee you that Russell Wilson's going to take the Denver Broncos to the playoffs. I don't think they got a shot at making a Super Bowl run. We've got to see what else they do roster-wise. And Jerry Jeudy, by the way, the receiver that you guys are all, including Keyshawn Johnson, here's another thing that you're wrong in. Want to say that he underperformed. Are you forgetting who his quarterbacks were last year? Now look who his quarterback is this year. And by the way, this is the same quarterback, Russell Wilson, who, by the way, takes a bunch of no-name wide receivers and makes them household names. And those same household names that are going to stay playing with the Seattle Seahawks this year, you're not going to hear much about them this year because they're not going to have Russell Wilson as their quarterback. But you know who you're going to hear about this year? You're going to hear a lot about Jeudy because his quarterback is Russell Wilson. And he's going to make that kid way better. And he's going to make that team way better. And they are easily going to be a playoff team, no doubt. Do anything beyond that? Couldn't guarantee, couldn't say. Got to see what the rest of that roster looks like. And they got a lot of improvements they got to make on defense also. A lot of improvements they got to make on defense. But offensively, they'll be able to put up some points. They got a good running back room. Despite what Keyshawn Johnson says, another thing they're wrong about. They got a good running back room. As long as the schemes are good, and as long as you got Russell under center, they're going to be able to put up points, and they're going to be able to win some shootout games if they have to, because, again, that defense, granted, is not great. Everybody has been saying how great they are for all these years, but I never thought they were. I think they're average, but in all honesty, that's probably all they've got to do to get to the playoffs. To go further, they'll have to vastly improve the defense. But if they're just average on defense, with Russell Wilson as the quarterback, and the wide receiver room staying as is, the running back room staying as is, and, maybe shore up that offensive line a little bit, but it is pretty good because they did a great job protecting all last year because I watched a few Bronco games. And then keep in mind that Russell Wilson is a mobile quarterback. They are going to go to the playoffs. Even though Keyshawn Johnson will try to tell you that they're not going to the playoffs. Jerry Jeudy, am I saying his name correctly? Hopefully I am. Who allegedly underperformed last year. He's going to look like what everybody thought he was supposed to look like last year. But again, it's hard to look like that when you don't have a good quarterback. That running back room is going to show up. That offense is going to put points on the board. They're going to win a lot of games at Mile High. They might even, go close to being undefeated at Mile High. And they're going to play all the toughest teams tough. Probably lose to a couple of tough teams by a couple of points, but they'll by far outperform what they did last year. And they're going to make the playoffs this year, just with the addition of Russell Wilson as their quarterback. That's how wrong Keyshawn Johnson is. Again, 3 things on that Denver Bronco team that Keyshawn Johnson's wrong about: the wide receiver room, the running back room, and absolutely positively the quarterback known as Russell Wilson, who, by the way, is not only a quarterback, he is a leader of men. A leader of men. Which brings up another topic, but I'm not going to get into it today, which is Mighty Mouse, Kyler Murray, Arizona Cardinals, but we'll probably touch base about that tomorrow. Bottom line is, you're going to see the Denver Broncos in the playoffs. I guarantee it. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. We will talk tomorrow. This is Yay or Nay Show with Alex C.